No surprises, the RBA has left rates unchanged. I'm joined by Adam Creighton from The Australian. Adam, that was as predicted, wasn't it?
Yeah, certainly that's right. The RBA has now left rates at 2.5% for the 10th month in a row, and they've been flagging all year that that would be the case. So most analysts aren't really expecting any change in rates until early next year.
But of course, there are some concerns about the state of the economy. Retail sales came out today up only 0.2%, quite sluggish. There must have been some concerns at the RBA though, right?
Yeah, certainly that's true, and I think those concerns are probably rising. So we've seen, for instance, the iron ore price has fallen below $100 US, and that's a concern. We saw a few days ago that building approvals, which is meant to be one of the crutches of the economy, that they've fallen now for 3 months in a row. And of course, today we've seen that retail sales growth is still fairly sluggish. It only grew by 0.2%, as you say, and most of the retail sales growth was bolstered by cafes and restaurants and strong spending at department stores.
So the other big question, of course, is consumer confidence. The hope was that after the election that would start to come back, but with these machinations around selling the budget, that seems to have really dropped off.
Yeah, the confidence issue is fairly interesting. So on the one hand, we see business confidence actually rose quite significantly after the budget, but consumer confidence, though, has been falling away. And perhaps that makes sense to some extent, given many of the government savings will ultimately fall on consumers in the form of lower welfare payments. But you know, the confidence question is still yet to play out. Things could change further in coming months.
So what would you say are the lights on the horizon for the Australian economy?
Well, it's still a question of the transition from the resource boom to economic activity in the rest of the sector. I mean, we saw a few weeks ago that the Bureau of Resource Economics downgraded once again the size of the resource investment pipeline, and that is somewhat concerning if the rest of the economy is not picking up, such as the building sector and the construction sector. But we also saw the price of houses fall for the first month in a very long time. I think nationwide prices fell in capital cities by 1.9% in just 1 month. So you know, whether or not that is just buyers taking stock and pausing, if you like, or whether it signals the beginning of a downward trend is still yet to be seen.
So pretty gloomy outlook in terms of Australia. The US did have good numbers yesterday in terms of their manufacturing, which shows their economy is rebounding. Is that one thing that might help us sort of get through this slow patch?
Yeah, well, certainly if the rest of the world picks up in terms of economic activity, that's very good for Australia, which is a small, medium-sized economy with a very large export-import sector. I mean, that's one of the interesting things about the Australian economy is that actually now increasingly our economic data is continually worse than in the rest of the world, than in the US and even in Europe in some cases. I mean, the UK economy now, of course, is growing faster than the Australian economy, both in terms of economic activity and also in terms of employment. So the lucky country, this time next year might not be so lucky.
Do you think it was the wrong time to put the brakes on in terms of the budget?
No, I don't. I think you've got to bite the bullet and do these things right away. I think the arguments that cutting government spending can hurt the economy are extremely tenuous, and they're not actually backed by empirical or even theoretical evidence. Really, it's just these arguments are normally put by people who a priori like more government spending.
But of course, as this kind of discussion goes on, the tougher it is for the consumer confidence.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, confidence will probably stay lackluster, I would say, for quite some time. I mean, these budget measures haven't even been passed yet, and so they're going to stay in the press for a very long time.
Adam Creighton, thanks very much.
Thanks, Jackson.